Another boy who was wearing a different shoe in each foot said that even if his mother would give him the footwear, he would have thrown it away. He meant that the boy was not wearing footwear because he did not want to wear one. The writer asked the second boy the reason for wearing a different shoe in each foot. He did not reply and shuffled his feet as he tried to hide the shoes. A third boy spoke that he was eager to get a pair of shoes as he had never owned one all his life. The writer takes the example of shoes to highlight the condition of these boys. They search the garbage dumps looking for such precious things. She further tells us that it has traveled across the country. She had seen many children walking barefoot in the cities as well as villages. There are seasons that they were barefoot not due to lack of money to buy footwear, but being footwear was a tradition for them. Now remember a story a man of Udupi once told me as a young boy who would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest and he would stop briefing at a temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later I visited his town and the temple which was now drowned in the air of desolation. In the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed a grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived painting and threw his school bag on a folding bed. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess had granted his prayer. Young boys like the son of the priest now wore shoes, but many others like the rage pickers in my neighborhood remain shoeless. Now the writers narrate a story told to her by a man from Udupi. Udupi is a town in Karnataka. When he was a young boy, he would walk on his school. On the way, he would cross a temple where his father worked as a priest. He would stop at the temple and pray to God to bless him with a pair of shoes. After 30 years, the writer visited the town and the temple. Now the place was nearly empty. The new priest lived in the backyard of the temple. Plastic chairs in red and white color were kept there. A young boy came running. He was wearing grey colored school uniform, socks and shoes. He had a school bag hung on his shoulder. He threw it on the bed and ran away. The writer wants to say that the financial position of the priest at the temple had improved over the last 30 years. Now he could afford shoes for his children. She has reminded of the another boy who got a pair of shoes. He prayed to the goddess that he may never lose the shoes that he had got. The goddess had granted his prayer as the boy never lost his footwears. This shows us that the underprivileged value anything that they get because if they have been longing for it. My acquaintance with the barefoot rage pickers leads me to Simapuri, a place in periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it. Metaphorically, those who live here in squatters who came from the Bangladesh back in 1971. Sahib's family is among them. Simapuri was in a wilderness. It still is, but it is no longer empty. In structures of mud with roof of tin and timber devoid of sewage, drainage of or running water, live 10,000 rage pickers. Now the writer described the area where these rage pickers boys live. They live in Simapuri. and it is located at the outskirts of Delhi and was very different from the capital of the country. In 1971, when these rage pickers had migrated from Bangladesh, the area had been a wasteland and Simapuri was still a wasteland, but now it was not empty as almost 10,000 rage pickers lived there in structures made of mud with roof made of thin sheets of thin and plastic material called temple line. There was no sewage, no drainage or running water facility in Simapuri. They lived in unhygienic condition. Now, they have lived here for more than 30 years without any identity, without permits, but card, with ration cards, they get their names on voters list and enable them to buy grain. Food is more important for survive than an identity. If at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields they give us no grain. Say a group of women to tattered saris and I asked them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. Now the rich pickers had been living illegally in Simapuri for last 30 years. They have occupied the area without government permission and the politicians of the area have provided them ration cards and voter ID cards. They got grocery for their family through their ration cards and in return they cast their votes in favor of the politician who had helped them. The writer asked a group of women who were wearing torn saris that why did they leave their homes in Dhaka? They replied that if they were able to satisfy the hunger of their families and sleep well at night, they were happier to live in Simapuri than their fields in Dhaka, which were ruined and give them no food. Whenever they find food, they pitch their tenants that become transist home. Children grow up in them becoming partners in several. The several in Simapuri means rage picking. Through the years, it has acquired the proportions of a fine art. Garbage to them is gold. It is their daily bread, a roof over their heads, even if it is leaking roof, but for a child, it is even more. Now these people traveled in search of food and whenever they found it, they set up temporary homes and started living there. The children kept on growing there and gradually they also started helping their parents and seeking means of survival. For those who lived in Simapuri, this means of survival was rage picking. As they had been doing it for many years, they became trained at rage picking and did it well. For the rage pickers, the garbage was as precious as gold. They gathered torn or damaged sheet which were used to cover the roof of their homes. These did not cover them well but still provided them with some protection. For the children, the garbage dumps were more than a means of survival. I sometimes find a rupee when a 10 rupee note, Sahib says. His eyes lighting up. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scourging, for there is hope of finding more. It means that for children, garbage has a meaning different from it means of their parents. For the children, it is wrapped in wonder. For the elders, it means for survival. Sahib was happy to say that sometimes he found a rupee or even a 10 rupee also. As one often find even a silver coin in the garbage dump, he kept on searching hoping to find more. For the children, the garbage dump was a means of fulfilling their dreams, although partially, while for their parent, it was a means of adding survival by providing the basic foods, clothes and shelters. One winter morning, I see Sahib standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. I like the game, he hums, content to watch it standing behind the fence. I go inside when no one is round, he admits. The gatekeeper lets me ask the swing. One winter morning, the writer saw Sahib was standing by the fence of a club. He was watching a tennis game being played by the two young men. Sahib liked the game but could not play it. He told the writer that he went inside the club when it would be closed. He was allowed to take swings by the guard there. Sahib too was wearing tennis shoes that looked strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Someone gave them to me, he says, in the manner of explanation. The fact that they are discarded shoes of some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of the hole in one of them does not bother him. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole in a dream come true. But the game he is watching is out of his reach. Now the writer saw that Sahib was also wearing tennis shoes. They did not look appropriate with his dress, with his worn out and had faded. He told the writer in an attempt to justify himself that someone gave him the shoes. She, however, fingered out that he had got them from a garbage dump. They must have been thrown away by a boy from a rich family as he did not want to wear them anymore. Probably they had a hole or two of them due to which he did not want to wear them. On the contrary, Sahib was not bothered by this fact and had no problem wearing them as it could not afford anything better than that. This morning, Sahib is on the way to the milk booth. In his hand, a steel canister. I now walk in a tea stall down the road, he says, pointing in the distance. I am paid 100 rupees and all my meals. Does he like the job? I ask. His face, I see, has lost the carefree look. His steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he could carry so. Light over his shoulders. The bag was his. The canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop. Sahib is no longer his own master. One morning, the writer met Sahib, who was on his way to the milk booth. He was holding a steel container and he told her that he had got a job at the nearby tea stall. He would earn 800 rupees a month and get meals too. The writer asked him if he liked the job as he could see that he had lost the carefree look. As now Sahib was working for someone else and was carrying his master's container, he was burdened with responsibilities. Earlier, as a rage picker, Sahib was carrying his own bag and was his own master. Now he was no longer his own. Children, story 2 I will explain in my next video. Thank you, children.